Welcome to the Map Deck podcast. We're now on Spotify and all sorts of places as well. My name's Paul, this is Jake joining us here today.
Hello everyone.
Today's subject, we have been watching a couple of videos on YouTube and other podcasts, and there's a flurry of other channels, including GCN Show, who've been talking about the state of the industry. And we kind of agree, but we think we've got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Now, we've just come from the workshop, got a dirty t-shirt and everything to prove we've been doing some work today. And we were just chatting. Do you know what? We've got some stuff to add here. We've got our own opinions. Now, we are probably guilty of being on the elite side of road bike.
Oh, 100%.
Stuff.
100%.
For what we sell. Downstairs in the actual workshop, we've got absolute all sorts, haven't we? Absolutely everything.
But if you go on the YouTube channel, especially the stuff we're showing off, it's all high-end stuff.
Yep.
There's nothing budget in there particularly.
But the reality is definitely that there's literally all sorts downstairs.
Yeah.
From commuter bikes, e-bikes, just everything. So anyway, so what GCN was sort of saying was that the industry is recovering, but it's definitely being propped up by the top end of the market, the expensive, multiple £1,000 bikes, dream machines that you guys probably call dentist bikes and that sort of thing. And we get that, we understand that. We haven't really sold that many bikes, what I'd call mid-tier. And the reason for that, I'd say, is because we're struggling to actually find bikes in the mid-tier, which is kind of the point of this podcast. Is we thought actually it's really difficult. There really hasn't been the product out there that's captured the imagination of the entry in mid-tier.
100%.
And then we started to drill down into it. We've been surrounded by Dura-Ace, SRAM Red, Campagnolo Super Record wireless launches, carbon wheels everywhere. But actually what has been made for the entry and mid-tier market?
Yeah.
And we really struggled.
We did. I mean, just looking at frames alone, I mean, the cheapest frame that we offer for like on our sort of Halo brands that we sell is £2,200.
Yeah, that's a Look 785.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it's a premium brand and everything else, but it's not that expensive compared to what's available from the other brands.
Even a giant TCR.
Yeah, absolutely. Just buying a giant TCR frame set, etc., is still on a par now with Look, which is absolutely bonkers. Of course, there's really premium stuff out there. Of course there is, but it's actually getting quite challenging. But the other thing I think that's happened is that the price of group sets has just dropped. Like for the massive amounts of overstock, what the Dura-Ace group set, which should be almost a £4,000 product, can now be picked up.
2.5.
Yeah, 2.5. And you drop that all the way down to 105 mechanical. I've just found this website here selling the new 105 mechanical group set for 395 quid.
I might buy one of those. It's quite a good deal.
That's amazing, because that's now in the price band of what should be Tiagra, Sora, etc. However, that price savings that we're seeing on group sets isn't transferring into fully built bikes. So an example of this we've got is the Canyon Endurance. I've just gone to Canyon, renowned for being pretty much good value bikes. This is an aluminium bike, but it looks really smart, dead nice. Comes with the old Tiagra group set, 1349. Now, the Tiagra group set was last updated in 2016.
That's interesting. So that is a 2024 model in a quite fetching minty blue colour.
Yeah.
And it's got a, 8-year-old 10-speed group set on it.
Yeah.
For £1,349.
Where everything else has gone to 12 speed now. So I find that a real struggle to recommend to someone, because you're sitting there thinking you're on an 8-year-old group set.
Yeah.
They must be releasing something new soon.
Yeah.
We know that as technology moves on, it gets harder and harder to obtain parts for the older stuff. Like people out there running old 10-speed 105 and even 11-speed 105, etc., are now finding it difficult to find parts at a good price, because all the discounts now are on the latest 12-speed and stuff, really, aren't they? So, I mean, there's nothing necessarily wrong with this bike. The frame looks lovely, and they've tried to get it down to a price point. It comes in at like 9.8 kilos, I think I saw.
That's probably without pedals, no sealant, all that sort of stuff. That's
9.7 kilograms.
So probably 10 when you've got it fully loaded.
Yeah, that's a lot, I think.
And for a road bike, that's probably 20% heavier than what you'd want.
And it's an uninspiring purchase. It's not just Canyon. We can pull up similar things from Trek and everything.
From any manufacturer.
But this, I just say that the entry level right now is really uninspiring. There's nothing there that's going, do you know what? I I can get my head around that bike. It looks like it's got an 8-year-old group set on it.
Yeah.
It's heavy and it's aluminium. And then you go onto YouTube to look at alternatives. And what do you find? Whole bunch of YouTube influencers getting sent free things from China, telling you to like buy this from China. Get LT Wu and Trevello and Yolio and all these brands that are propping up from nowhere. And our inbox is the same, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
It's like we kind of got a bit of a policy here where we don't really review Chinese things. I have this like sort of set email that says, if you can prove to me that you can provide spares like mech hangers, headsets, axles, etc., and you're going to hold those spares for a decent amount of time, then I will take your product in to review it. Normally the conversation goes dead at that point. Every now and then something comes through. But I think if you were looking at a new road bike right now and you were like shopping around and you had a price point, let's say £2,000 max.
Again, to me, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay, 1,500 quid max. How does that sound?
Yeah.
And you went on someone like Canyon. My God, 1,500 quid does not buy you anything interesting.
No, not at all.
So you go, what else available? What else is there out there? And you come across things like Panda Podium, and you might be tempted by that. So I think a lot of this sort of industry slump, I'd say, it's probably the industry's own fault for ignoring people. It's not giving us anything interesting.
There's, as you say, it's got an 8-year-old group set on it, and we took a look as well at the SRAM offering. So the Force One, Rival One, the kind of hydraulic group sets. Again, that's another 2016. That was when that was released, and they haven't updated it since. And
they look so outdated now. Those levers are like these big bull horns on them and everything else, and they haven't really gone back and fixed the issues from launch, which are the levers rattle around and the banjo fittings inside.
And the brakes don't work, and
all those sort of things. They could have just refreshed them, but they haven't. All they've done is put the price up periodically. So a SRAM Force One group set mechanical, released in 2016, is now 1,300 quid.
And it's like, well, now if you really wanted, you could buy a 105 DO2 group set for £800.
Yeah.
And it's just
So what should be a value product is just isn't there. And I think there's this whole population of cyclists who are like, come on, like give me something to get excited about. Why can't you say Shimano really need to do this rather than just doing the Shimano Dura race, then making a cheaper version for Ultegra, a cheaper version for 105? They actually need to go, right, 350 quid group set, Tiagra level, let's just make the best product possible for 350 quid.
Yeah.
And then we've got something I think we can probably get excited about again. A little bit, I think, goes the same with frames. Like aluminium frames should be a bit of a bargain, but aluminium frames now.
Well, I took a look at the Cad 13.
A classic bike.
A classic. The Canondale Cad series has been a staple of the sort of value bike for quite some time. And if I just pull up this Sigma Sports listing here, we have got it's got Rival Axis on it. It's got DT Swiss R470 wheels, so aluminium wheels. It's got Rubino tyres, so 30 quid tyres, all aluminium finishing kit. Would you like to guess how much that bike costs?
I can see here, but it's nothing to get excited about.
The RRP of a Cad 13 is £3,400.
It's mental.
And it's just, there's no, why on earth? The group set's 800 quid, the wheels are 200 quid. That's like they're saying that's a 1,500 quid aluminium frame.
And I think this is what people are doing. They're adding up the value. They're going, oh, what's that group set worth? Oh, it's worth this much. And hang on, how much am I paying for an aluminium frame? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. People are doing these sums at home and it's just not making sense. But then what's the alternative? They go, well, actually the alternative is like, right, I'm going to buy that group set because it's an amazing deal. Okay, I need a frame.
Yeah.
Right. But you can't buy a frame from Canyon. And you can hardly buy a frame from Giant.
Yeah.
So few brands now are selling frame onlys.
Well, especially I think for the value-oriented consumer, a custom building is a very tricky task to kind of get a really under £2,000. I think you really struggle to actually make a functioning bike. Yeah. For everything brand new, it's like a quality build. Really struggle. But the stopping point is the frame. Yeah, because we can see good quality group sets, good quality wheels out there, available to buy in great deals. But what do you put it onto? Yeah, it's like, Sinelli is actually one of the few brands I think that still do frames of a Western type brand anyway, and they've hardly got anything available either. So
it's a real struggle. And I think a lot of it, the industry's got to blame for itself. It's like I say, SRAM have completely ignored the entry and mid-market. Shimano seem to have completely ignored the entry and mid-market in road. They've got queues, but that's at the moment queues is only really for like trekking and like commuting. So they've their mountain bike range is okay, to be fair.
Yeah.
But the road range has been neglected since 2016. Campagnolo have stepped away.
They've completely binned off Veloce.
Yeah, absolutely gone. So there's nothing there. So there's no wonder people are looking for like L2 and have been abandoned by all the other brands. This isn't just road biking though. Mountain biking is arguably better.
Yeah, I would say for a brand new bike, I think you get more value for money in the value range on the mountain bike side.
Yeah, which is odd because we've seen mountain biking kind of decline in popularity, I'd say. We've definitely seen more road and stuff like that. I mean, our suspension workshop is busy. Dan downstairs he's working really hard down there, and we're seeing more people get things repaired. But in terms of like custom building mountain bikes, we haven't seen a lot at all. And we haven't really heard or spoken about people investing in new bikes. Like quite often we'd get someone come in, with a classic one with mountain biking is enduro riders especially, they tend to break things and they just upgrade as they go, and we'll quite often be brought on, my frame's all smashed up, can you take all the components off and put it onto this? And we haven't really seen much of that even. I don't think.
What does confuse me is that with a mountain bike, you have so many more components that should be expensive, like suspension, all that. Surely the R&D into a frame is going to be more difficult for a full suspension mountain bike than a road bike.
Oh, the geometry is always changing. Road bike is a kind of stable geometry, we're changing tyre widths and that sort of thing at the moment. But the geometry is kind of like, long and slack, short and steep, etc. is kind of set.
But as a manufacturer, it should be easy to make a value road bike because you can take all your existing geometries and put it into an aluminium form factor and make something that's perfectly functional, perfectly serviceable, put some aluminium wheels on it and a good value group set, and it should all come up trumps. But for some unbelievable reason, the mountain bike with all its complexities and dropper post, suspension, everything changing all the time seems to offer you more value, and that just makes absolutely no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm looking at a Canyon Neuron here, the aluminium version, a similar price to the road bike actually, but suspension forks, rear shock, dropper post, the whole works. It's about £100 more.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 15 kilograms, whereas the top of the range one is like 13, so you're saving 2 kilograms from going from.
But again, that's the same with the road bike. If you're getting a 10 kilogram road bike, then
but to save 2 kilograms off a road bike, you're spending 10 grand almost, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's absolutely insane. Which, I don't know where the industry is going to go with all this, because it's a shame that we almost feel like the Western brands, the established Western brands, are almost opening the door and say, hey China, here's a massive part of the cycling market that you can just have. We're not even going to put up a fight. Just here, take them, because we're not making anything for you. And it's a real shame, because I think I was thinking some of the people that we see downstairs who are parents, for instance, and kind of making the decision with their sort of youth riders. Yeah. And I can imagine, you're getting into racing, you really want a carbon bike, because it's all about having the carbon bike, isn't it? And your mates have got a carbon bike and you want to start racing, etc. And, and you traditionally would go to Giant or whatever, but you can get, oh my God, that's expensive. So, you as the enthusiastic youth rider would go onto YouTube and see what they're saying, and you would come across people like Trace Velo, and you'd probably go back to your mum and say, hey, look at this Yolio or Trevello thing that I could get, and maybe we could build it at home, and that's dead exciting. And the parent probably understandably says, oh, I'm not really sure about buying from Chinese. Isn't there something in the Giant range, something we can just go to a bike shop and get some reassurance with? And they go, whoa. Yeah. It kind of just makes you back off, I think. It's, what are your friends doing at the moment? What are the youth riders at the moment? Where are they going for
I mean, if it was me in that same situation, I would get something secondhand. I think it makes far more sense. There's nothing in a value that presents the value that I would think that's a good purchase. I really want one of those, and that's a good way to spend my money. If I was spending 1,000, 1,500 quid, I would much rather, and that's what I did as a youth rider. I always went through secondhand bikes because you grow out of them, you upgrade, you change. So I would go through the secondhand market in terms of getting a good quality but a couple of years out of date kind of bike, and I think you'll get much more value for money and kind of a much more serviceable bike for what you're paying through the secondhand market. But even that, if you're not as experienced or you don't have anyone to kind of guide you through it, the secondhand market is still a bit of a minefield because you never really know what you're buying. And if you are getting into cycling, you can't just, you still have to educate yourself and try and work it all out and go through all the specs and products and stuff like that, rather than just walking into a bike shop and saying, oh, just getting into cycling, I want a new road bike, what can I get? And it's still tricky, it's still difficult. There's no kind of nailed on, this is what you should get, this is what I want.
To buy secondhand, especially a mountain bike, you need to be a pretty clued up player, and you need to be a sort of cyclist yourself, really, to really navigate, compatibilities, because that's getting trickier and trickier, and what's that going to cost to repair? And because sometimes you can get fantastic deals, but a rear cassette could cost you more than the actual price you paid. If you've picked up something with a SRAM XX1 or something group set from like 10 years ago, and you're thinking this is amazing, but then you come to replace that cassette, you're like, whoa.
Or even if it's a 11-speed GX with a XD cassette on the back, you still end up paying 200 quid for a cassette.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the second-hand
if it's in
market
stock
can be like, what's out of stock with SRAM this week? I do really feel, so this is like an appeal, I think, isn't it? Come on, Shimano, SRAM, Campagnolo, come on, let's pay some attention to our entry and mid-markets. And bike brands, please, make your frames available. Let us build stuff, because there's so many great deals out there at the moment, and the frames are the backlog. We just can't get a frame.
Well, you do wonder if it's to do with the business of, as a bike brand, the business that you kind of bring yourself on their entry-level bikes really is the money in the frames. Because the way I probably see it is that the frames are kind of like they're probably not making a whole load of money on those. If you're selling a cheap bike, you're probably not making a much margin, and the actual money comes from the group set and the wheels and all of the stuff around it. And so if you are then to put that frame on sale, either it's going to be way overpriced for what it is, because you need to actually make some money out of that if you're going to sell it as a frame only, or you're going to be losing money. And who wants to do that?
I know, if that's the business model, that it's so broken.
100%.
Because the only thing that these brands make is the frame. Everything else they buy in, it's just third-party stuff that they're strapping on. I mean, and it's such a shame if that's the way that's the way it's going, because the next part of that, brands like Ribble, etc., they'll be buying tens of thousands of group sets, and then maybe they're making more money from putting the group sets they don't put on bikes through the back door, and they end up in Merlin and God knows where else. That's such a broken business model. The frame should be what we're proud of. This is what we make. This is what it's worth. Oh man, what are we going to do? It's because we can't just go on, I don't think, propping up the industry with the top end stuff. That's not a sustainable way forward. We really need to work out how we're going to get people back into buying bikes, enjoying bikes at a sensible prices again, and inspire them by giving them some good product at good price points. So there we go. I think I'm done ranting. How about you?
Yeah, just about.
On that bombshell, it's time for you to get down in the comments. Have you spotted anything in that mid to entry level price point that you think is actually really inspiring? Or have you just found compromise after compromise, or stuff that just makes you go, nah, not interested? Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. People from the industry do watch and listen to these podcasts, and we'll keep sharing that information on as we meet people in the industry as well. So over to you. Get down in the comments, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers, Jake.
Bye.
Cheers.